Welcome back to the temple of your life. Today, I'd like to share a little bit about the way that my animals or my relationship with my animal companions has been a portal to connection to the sacred. And it's always been that way for me, maybe for many of you as well, that sometimes my relationships with people have been a little bit disappointing, challenging, harder to find the face of God in the face of the person who is acting like an asshole. But somehow, animals for me have always been the most reliable reflections of, of the presence of the divine. I mean, nature in general, the natural world always, but animals in particular. I mean, I remember befriending stray cats when I was a little girl in New York before we moved to New Mexico when I was 11, and how how much patience I had, infinite patience with luring these wild creatures into the little house I built for them and feeding them cheese and cultivating a real relationship with them, or with my little bird in a cage that I would whistle back and forth to. Like, I've always had this sense that it's worth slowing down enough to really be present with animals. I was reflecting earlier today on a walk with my friend Willow about my experience with my horse. Horse. Well, he came with the name Fancy, but I hated that name, so I called him Horse. I was 13. I had absolutely no business having a horse. I knew very little about horses. We'd recently settled in the mountains of New Mexico, and I just thought a horse would be the right next thing to do. I mean, this is how little parenting I had. Nobody really cared. So I got the horse. He was kind of a rescue, and I proceeded to befriend this horse who was 10 years old in Appaloosa, who hadn't been ridden in like 8 years. So he'd been broken as early on as a foal, but then hadn't been ridden, had just been running wild. So I was this 13-year-old girl, little, I'm a little person to begin with, and a little bit littler then, and I couldn't even mount him. He was 17 hands without a boost, so that was a problem. And at first he just kept throwing me, and I found all these different things to climb on to get back on. But finally, what happened was that I trained him with love to the point where Fancy slash AKA Horse would do anything for me. Anything I asked. He'd come when I called. He would practically stoop down so that I could get on his back. He would take me everywhere. Sometimes I would take like 20-mile rides, leaving early in the morning and getting back after dark, alone, bareback, with a hackmore, no bridle, on the back of this giant horse who loved me so much that he would do what I wanted. I would just have to telepathically communicate it, pretty much, which means I was probably communicating it with my body. And he would respond. And I've always had dogs, and my dogs, I try to train them. I try to be the alpha person, but it's just not in my nature. But what is in my nature is to love them so hard that their own hearts just open and spill into mine. So every day, I I come downstairs from my upper bedroom, and Lola and Ruby are waiting for me, my two dogs, at the bottom of the stairs. And thus commences the most beautiful sacred moment of my day, where they nuzzle me and cuddle me and lick my throat. And they expect this ritual of love, of greeting each other that happens on a daily basis. And I love that they expect it. And we all just nestle in. It's like prayer. It is prayer. It's not like prayer. It is prayer. And so maybe you also have discovered the presence of the sacred most in your relationship with animals, with a cat curled up on your chest, whatever it may be, with the relationship with the birds outside your window. I'm looking at the birds outside mine right now on this first day of spring, actually. So reclaim the holiness of your love for animals and their love for you.